Welcome to Michigan Golf Scene. I'm Roy J. Akers. In a special edition of the show, we go out to Oakland Hills where GAM is celebrating their 100th anniversary, and they invited, arguably, not in my opinion, the greatest golfer of all time, Jack Nicklaus. For about the next 40 minutes, Nicklaus will take questions from members of the press, including myself. When interviewing Nicklaus, his memory is very strong, and you start the ball rolling with a few questions, and he is well versed on just about any golf topic. Let's go to the press conference moderated by GAM golf reporter Greg Johnson.
Oh. Well, we got people out here.
Yeah. Thought you were talking to your Al Watcherson, those guys. How are you, Jack? Thank you for popping in.
How y'all doing?
Great.
Good.
They've got their mics set up. We're just gonna.
Wow.
We'll make this as harmless as possible. When you get tired, say quit or whatever.
Okay, I'm tired.
First of all, welcome to Oakland Hills.
Thank you.
We don't really need to introduce you, I don't think. How was your U.S. Open trip and the flight here and all that?
We had a good time. We went out to the Pebble on Monday, and we got to we had the Hall of Fame function, and then we had all the past champions played at Cypress on Tuesday. And we had let's see. And then we had the dinner on Tuesday night at the beach club. And Wednesday we had, what did we do Wednesday? Huh?
Pasadena.
Yeah, so I went out to Pasadena. Of course, I did outside of town and did a thing out there, Q&A with Jim Nance out there. And then we had the Bobby Jones Award on Wednesday night. Lee Elder was awarded the Bob Jones Award. And then Thursday, I got to play golf again at Cypress with Nance and a couple of friends. And then we went to Las Vegas. And my wife is good friends with Marie Osmond, and so we went to see the Donnie and Marie show, which is just ending now in November. They're on the Children's Miracle Network board together, and they've raised $7 billion. Children's Miracle Network, pretty neat. Which Marie started. She started the Children's Miracle Network, and then we went back to Florida, and I watched the tournament yesterday.
Oh, you did? Oh, good. On TV, that's good.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of it out there. There's no way in the world I could.
They keep you too busy.
Yeah. And then, believe it or not, I got an airplane that came up here this morning.
Well, thank you. We're glad you're
Outside
here.
of that, we haven't done anything.
Hey, people usually get their money's worth out of you, Jack. We're just asking Oakland Hills. This will be the last question I ask, and we'll open it up. But Oakland Hills, what does that mean to you? What memories do you have of the place?
Well, Oakland Hills, I'll use some of the material because since you won't write it, I'll use it tonight too. But I played here in 1961, first time, and because I played in the Open here, I was 21. And I played several practice rounds with Ben Hogan that week. I remember doing that, and we had a nice week. I finished. I ended up playing 2 over the last 7 holes to lose the tournament by 3 shots. I'll never forget the second shot I hit at 12. People will laugh about it because they can't believe it could happen. There used to be a big overhanging elm tree in the right side of the fairway, about 100 yards short of the green. And I hit my second shot, and when I hit the second shot, a whirlwind came through. You see people in the hats flying up in the air in the gallery, and the tree started whipping. And I hit the shot, pre-whipped out. Honestly, I hit the shot, it was going on the green, I guarantee you. Hits the tree that blew out, dropped straight down, hit my shot in the bunker, out, made 6 instead of 4, and ended up losing the tournament. And that was because I finished second the year before, at Cherry Hills. I came here and did that. And then, of course, then I got lucky the next year and won at Oakmont. But that was sort of the start of my career. I was still at Ohio State at the time. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed playing up here. I was very flattered to play with Hogan. I played with Hogan at 60 at Cherry Hills in the last 2 rounds. And the next year at Augusta, he walked in the locker room with a couple of pair of shoes over his shoulder. He called everybody fella. He says, "Hey, fella, how you doing?" I said, "I'm fine, Mr. Hogan. How are you?" And he says, "Good." He says, "You got a game?" And I said, "I do now." And so we went out and we played a couple of practice rounds at Augusta. And then when I got here, he did the same thing with me. Got here and asked me to play a couple of practice rounds with him. So I was very flattered that Ben Hogan took an interest in a young kid. And it was a big part of my life.
Good. Let's go questions. Joe?
Yeah, thank you. When you drove around the course, did some of those memories come out there? Did you
We didn't go around this course.
I thought you went.
We went to North Course.
Okay.
Yep, never been over there. So no memories came out of me. But
There you go.
no, I mean, I remember this course well. I played here in the the Open in '61. Then we had the Carling in '65. I think I screwed up the last couple holes there too. Bobby Nicklaus won that one. And then let's see, Gary won in '72, didn't he?
Yep.
And I don't remember where I was there. And then David Graham won '79, is that right?
That's correct. That's
And,
all on the rocks out there.
And then I came back and played '91, I guess. Maybe there might have been something else in the '80s, was there? There's something '85? Yeah, '85. Andy North. I remember '85 very well because I missed the cut. And I'd gone on the Maria Navratilova diet. It was called Eat to Win. And the way I went on it, I had to win to eat. Because I got down to 170 pounds, which is the lightest I'd been since I was in the 8th grade. And I couldn't hit the ball out of the rough. And I missed the cut here, and I missed the cut at the British Open that year, 1985. And I never had so much fun gaining 15 pounds in all my life. But then we came back in '91 for the Senior Open. And I think that's all I played at Oakland Hills. I did come back here a few years ago for an event here at the club. What was that, Scott?
I want to say probably.
It was their
13.
centennial? Yeah.
It was the Scholarship Trust.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah. It was their 100th year here. Yep.
So I've been here a lot.
We're glad you came one more time. Thanks.
I'm sitting there driving down this morning. I'm coming from Pontiac Airport, and I said, "You know the cutoff over here?" I said, "I can't remember the name down here." And he says, "Voorhees Road." I said, "That's right."
That's right. Tom?
I took that 100 times.
This event that we're here for is Youth on Course, trying to get more kids in the game, of course. When you were a child, what was it that got you interested in golf? What spurred that?
Well, golf was obviously my father's what got me interested. My dad was, excuse me, we lived on Ohio State's campus. My dad had a drugstore on the campus, and he broke his ankle, and he had 2 unsuccessful operations, and the third where they fused the ankle. And the doctor told him, he said, "Charlie," he says, "you need to take up something that you need to walk again, otherwise you're gonna be in a chair permanently in the very near future." So he had played golf as a kid, was a decent golfer as a kid. And he said, "Well, I got to go out where he had a golf course." So we moved out to Upper Arlington, and he actually went into the first shopping center out there and did a drugstore. And so we went out there, and we moved in '49, and then the spring of '50 came along, and he started playing golf. He took me along to carry the bag because he couldn't really make a game with anybody because he couldn't walk. And so I'd start chipping, putting finally, and he'd sort of, as he did with all sports, he just introduced me to sports. And he started me with the interlocking grip, which I never changed. And Jack Grout came to Scioto in 1950. That was his first year there. And also the PGA Championship was in Scioto in 1950. So Snead was the medalist of that, and I'm not sure, I think Mangrum maybe a second medalist. Anyway, ended up at Chandler Harper beat Henry Williams Jr. in the finals. That's one of the reasons why they went back to medal play. Because you get guys that nobody ever heard of in the finals. It made it a little tough for television and everything else. You had guys up here that played pretty well at the PGAs during those years too. You had Chick Harbert and Walt Berkemo both played very well at the PGAs. And my dad got me introduced to the game. The PGA was a big part of it because going out, and Jack took me through the locker room, and I got to meet all the golfers at that time. I was only a 10-year-old kid, but I still went through the golfers or through the locker room. And I'll never forget walking up to Lloyd Mangrum, who was a rough guy. You never knew Lloyd Mangrum, but cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he had playing didn't rub him. What do you like, kid? I mean, I'll never forget that line. And Mr. Mangrum, I came, could you sign my autograph? Sure. Get out of here, kid. That kind of stuff. Anyway, I did that, and I got started playing golf that way, and I got interested in it, and I played all sports, and by process of elimination, and what I mean by elimination is that I was a pretty decent football player. I played quarterback and did all the punting and place kicking, and played center linebacker, and but when high school football rolled around, I had to make a choice because I still applied for national tournaments and national amateur I qualified for there, and I had to make up my mind whether I wanted to play football or not, and that was the time when Woody Hayes, he was a customer at my dad's drugstore. He lived about a block away, and he says, Dad said, Woody said, Jack, he says, the coach is after Jack to play football, and he says, he doesn't think he wants to. And he says, Charlie, he says, I've seen you're a young boy. He says, he's a good athlete. He says, but you keep him as far away from my sport as you can. He says, he's got a good sport, which is pretty good advice I got from Woody Hayes. But anyway, then I played basketball through school and was recruited for basketball actually at Ohio State. And probably because I didn't get golf scholarships, I'm not sure, but probably right. Anyway, I was with Havlicek and Lucas, and the guys were there. I was recruited with them, so I got to know all those guys. And so I played basketball through school, but I'm smart enough to figure out I wasn't tall enough, fast enough, for that. And the other sports just sort of eliminated themselves, and it really turned around where golf was a sport that I could go out early in the morning, come home late at night. I could play here all day, and whatever my efforts were, I would be rewarded by my own efforts, not somebody else being out. I go out to play baseball and go out in a dusty field waiting for another 10 or 15 guys to come to play baseball who never show up. And then you go home after 3 hours. And really? And baseball, and I love baseball. Baseball was probably my best sport. And so, but never get anybody to play like I did, like I wanted to. I wanted to go daybreak, and I wanted to come back at dark, whatever sport I played. And that's what I did. And so golf just happened to fit into that. And I was very lucky that I never had any what ifs. What if I'd have stayed with this, or what if I'd have stayed with that? And so golf became my sport, and I loved it.
What happened to your dad's drugstore?
I'm sorry,
What happened to your dad's drugstore?
They sold drugs.
No, I said, what happened? Did he sell it?
Well, yeah, eventually, yeah. My dad passed away in 1970, but my dad ended up being he had the one on the campus which he sold when he moved out to Arlington, and then he had one with his brother who's a pharmacist. My dad's family, my dad came from the south side of Columbus, and his father, when the boys were growing up, he had three boys and a sister, Actually, had two sisters, lost one sister young. And he was a boilermaker on a railroad. So he took him down to where he made boilers, maybe 150 degrees type thing where he was working. And he brought him down and he says, okay, boys, I want to show you what I don't want you ever to have to do. And so those three boys, one became a dentist, the other two became pharmacists. So they all have their own professional thing they got. They went off, and my dad ended up with and had partners with his brothers and on a shopping center and about 3 or 4 drugstores and so forth. So that's what they did. And his last brother just passed away here about 2 or 3 years ago, and he was about 15 years younger, but he was in there. And he actually he moved out west, but that's all right.
After this brief message, we pick up the press conference, and he speaks about the state of the game of golf, his desire to succeed, and also the players taking him under his wing early in his career.
14 clubs. That's what they tell us a legal golf bag can hold. And while that leaves a little room for balls and tees, it doesn't leave room for much else. There's no room left for deadlines or conference calls, not a single pocket to hold the stress of the day or the to-do list of tomorrow. Only 14 clubs. Pick out the right one and drive it right down the middle. Up Pure, Michigan. Your golf trip begins at michigan.org.
And you've had a lot of interest here as well. What is it about Michigan golf fans? Why is it so big here? Why do you think people just...
Well, I think you look at Michigan and you look at, the state where I think more golf is played per capita is actually Minnesota. More golfers per capita. And I think a lot of it is because of the very, very long days. I mean, you got, this time of year, you've got, 6 hours of darkness probably? Maybe a little more than that, maybe not much more than that though. But you could play golf here until 10 o'clock, right? And you can start playing golf here probably at about 5. Am I right?
Yeah.
So you have the ability, if you want to play almost around the clock. And when you get that kind of a thing, and the people in that state, you've got some wonderful golf courses in the state. All through the state, you've got good golf courses, and it gives them the ability to be able to learn and play and have fun and do it. The country outside the United States, the country that you would never dream is probably the most golfers per capita is Iceland. For that exact same reason, they don't have darkness in summertime, so they play around the clock. And but I think Michigan's much falls into that category. Ohio close to that, but not quite. But you've got golf courses. I mean, the Detroit area's got some wonderful golf courses, and you got golf courses all up along Lake Michigan side and up in Traverse City area. They have the golf courses up there. But you got some really nice courses.
Have you been to Detroit Golf Club ever, where they're playing the tour next week?
I've been to the Detroit Golf Club. I was there, a couple of years ago, Scott?
And was it an anniversary?
Yeah, I was there, but I've never. Did I play?
I don't think so.
Did I play some holes? I don't remember. Yes and no. But that's where Arnold won, right?
The US.
Yeah, he did way back.
He won the 50.
Yep.
54 amateur there.
Yep.
It reminds me of the first time I met him, 1953. I didn't meet him. 1953. I was playing the Ohio Amateur. 1954, actually, it was that year. 1954, I was playing the Ohio Amateur in Toledo. And it was pouring down rain. And I was the only golfer on the golf course on a Tuesday. Everybody else got off. And I, you know, that's a stubborn kid. So I was out there playing, and I got off the golf course, and there was some guy on the range. I could pouring down range, hitting balls. So I sat back there and I watched this guy. He looked like Popeye out there, and he was drilling these short irons about quail high, just little draws. So I says, "Man, is that guy strong?" And so I went to the locker room and I says, "Who in the world is out there?" "Oh, that's our defending champion, Arnold Palmer." So that's where I first got to see Arnold. And then later that year, he won the amateur here at Detroit Golf Club because he turned pro the next year.
Did Jack really rely on a 1-iron to play some senior golf tournaments on most par 3 holes in the state of Michigan? Well, we find out how he played the Dearborn Country Club as he was designing his TPC course.
Back in 1990, when the Legends Tour, it was the Detroit, or the Dearborn Golf Club, you played the entire tournament, I think it was with a 1-iron except for the par 3s. I don't know if you remember that or not, but what would
Well, I probably used a 1-iron a little bit, yeah.
I mean, what would possess you to play the whole, you know?
I didn't. That was just, that's what somebody told you.
That's what was printed in the press. Can you
Yeah,
believe that?
you can. Fake news. But I played a 1-iron a lot. I used a 1-iron a lot at TPC, Michigan, when we played over at Dearborn, that place. But that year, Dearborn's not a very long golf course. And I mean, I don't know if anyone shot under par, but I shot 27 or 8 under par, something like that.
Yeah, you did.
I shot way
You
under
shot a
par.
bunch.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, when you don't need a driver, and the rough is up, and want to put it in play, that's what you do. I don't know what I won that tournament by. Do you have any idea? Anybody have any idea?
He was a runaway. I was there, but
I know
you're
it was-
texting my memory. I can't remember.
I maybe won, I don't know, 7 or 8 shots, something like that. Something
I was a young golf writer then, Jack. So.
I was a young golfer.
You were. You were. You didn't
50
look.
50
You didn't
was-
look 50 then.
I was going to say 50. That's almost
Yeah.
30 years ago.
All right. Anybody else got one?
So anyway, but no, what possessed me to use a 1-iron? I used a 1-iron a lot. When I won at Cherry Hills, when I won the Senior Open there, I probably hit a 1-iron there half the holes. 1-iron was well, you saw it at Pebble Beach last week. He played a ton of irons. The guys did. You know, when you got a golf course that you need to put the ball in play, you use the club, but you need to put it in play with.
I want to ask you about the course you're going to do in Grand Haven. What's going on there? And you're supposedly donating some of your services or all of your services to the cause.
Well,
how'd that come about?
Major Dan Rooney's been a friend of mine for a long time in Folds of Honor. And he was saying that he wanted to do a golf course in honor of the Folds of Honor. Are you all familiar with Folds of Honor? I assume you are. Anybody not?
No, they're.
Okay.
Dan's pretty popular in this state, so.
Okay, well, I would think he is.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. And so Dan asked me if I would help me involved. I said, sure. Of course I will. So we donated everything. We don't want anything for it. But what I wanted to be is part of it. And so Dan took me up to his property. This is a year ago, I guess now. About a year ago. And so we went up and we started looking at it, figuring out what to do, how to do it. Then he started, going out and raising money, which he has. Matter of fact, Gary Woodland has I bought a hole or two from on Dan's course in Grand Haven. And it's a pretty piece of property. In Grand Haven the property originally was totally tree lined. When I say originally, because I basically came in and cleared it. I mean, these gorgeous big trees, like you had here at Oakland Hills. And all these big trees, I just took them all down. And except for the perimeter, I wanted to keep the perimeter sort of to separate from the housing. And then it's all sand underneath it. So when he called the golf American Dunes, and his idea was to have a dunesy golf course in there. I said, whatever you want. So we're going to do a dunesy golf course in the sand. And so we've started. We've got the clearing done. I'm going up there within the next 2 weeks to start actual design of the holes. And and I got a pretty good idea what I want to do, but I'll go do it. And we'll probably we'll have a good shot at finishing up this fall.
Yeah. Okay.
Get it, grass?
It's close to my house, so I'm
Since
pretty
it's-
excited.
Since it's in sand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that difficult.
You've done quite a few charity things. It's
When we return, we find out about the state of Jack's game, his legacy, and why he relies on his wife and her causes to get around day by day.
You come back to Michigan and you design a course now, Harbor Shores. You're doing this today. We're going to raise a bunch of money for Youth on Course. The thing in Grand Haven, obviously, is for a great charity. Has your career turned that way, or is that just what we're getting in Michigan?
No, I basically, through most of my career, my wife supported what I did. She understood that I didn't need confrontation, and I needed support. And so for the first probably 40 years of our marriage, everything that I did, Barbara supported. And when the Honda tournament moved to Palm Beach 15 years ago, they came to us and asked us what children's charities would be in the Palm Beach area. And I looked at her and I says, do you want to go for it? She says, absolutely. So that's when we started our foundation. And so we started our foundation for the last 15 years. We haven't done any big fundraisers, but we've done little stuff. We've raised a little over $100 million in the last 15 years. Not bad for little golf tournaments and things like that. And so the last 15 years, I've been supporting her. And Barbara, I run into a whole different crowd of people. I've run into a whole bunch of different things. My values have changed as far as looking at what things have. You start to see some of these kids and what happens with these kids from what is from your efforts and the donations that people have made and the things, and you start to say, you know, this is a heck of a lot more important than a little 3 or 4 foot putt. And so, you know, as I've gotten older, and I got involved in things like Major Dan's thing, and having the opportunity. I mean, we still have a company, and we still have a company which we do golf courses for
Right.
private courses or clubs or resorts or whatever it might be. But there's several opportunities to be able to be a part of something that's a lot bigger and more important than what you're doing. And so we've had the opportunity to do that, and it's been fun to do that. And we'll probably, I don't know, we'll continue to do some of those as they come along and they're appropriate and the proper thing to do. That's what we'll do.
Great. Tom?
Several years ago, you were really big on promoting things like 12-hole courses and trying new things that could make golf more fun or more accessible. to
Nobody's
people.
paid any attention to
I
it.
was just gonna say, do you believe any progress has been made in that kind of thing? There is a 12-hole course here in Michigan, up in Lansing.
Oh, there's a lot of 12-hole
But
courses.
do you see much progress in those kind of things you were trying to promote?
It's a very slow process. You know, the whole reason for it is that golf basically has 3 major problems. One, it takes too long, it's too expensive, and it's too difficult. Those are probably the 3 major things that keep kids out of the game. The millennials are not coming into the game simply because they don't have, their attention span's about 20 minutes, you know. And it's all with a little iPhone or something. And so, and they can, I mean, my kids drive me crazy. Says, you know, I wonder about who did what and so, here, Dad, you know, 5 seconds to tell you the whole story.
My son's the same.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyway, I keep working. The USGA understands, and the R&A understand that the biggest problem we've got is probably the golf ball. They understand that. They've been researching it for 40 years. And they keep saying, well, I think they will get to it very shortly. I really do. I think they're going to have to bring the golf ball back a little bit. Not a lot, but they'll bring it back to where not every time you have an event. I mean, here you're talking about redoing Oakland Hills. How long is this golf course? Anybody know?
It's like 71, and it'd be 74, yeah, if they really
I mean,
stretch it.
they're going to want to make 7,800. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you really don't. You don't have enough land. Augusta National has been the only club that I know that's had enough money to keep the game relevant. I mean, they bought Berkman Road right next to Augusta. Bought all the houses next to Berkman Road. I mean, give me a break. I mean, you know, they bought half of Augusta Country Club to lengthen a hole.
They bought a neighborhood parking.
That's Berkman Road.
Yeah.
They bought all the houses on Berkman Road. I mean, how much did that cost? I mean, nobody can afford that. And so they've kept up with it, but nobody else can. And so the golf ball is a controlling factor of that. If the golf ball goes shorter, you don't need to keep adding land. You don't need to keep, we're going to run out of water. We're going to run out of money. We're going to run out of time. I mean, the game of golf, when we first went to the British Open, and that was first year I played 62, we played in 2 hours and 25 minutes. That's how long it took us to play. If you played in 2 hours and 30 minutes, you're on the clock. I mean, that's how fast we played. And that's the way they played. That was their natural way to do it. And so, you know, even over there it's slowed up. But we need to get back. There isn't any other sport that really, other than a 5-set tennis match, that doesn't play in 3 hours or less. All your other sports play in 3 hours. And so, you know, golf needs to get there too. It needs to get somewhere in that area, whether it's 12 holes, whether it's not about the tour. The tour is very healthy. But even them, you on tour today, the average golfer can't relate to a tour player. When I was growing up, you know, I hit it 15 or 20 yards further than the club champion. We could go out and have a game, and he knew the course that I didn't. More than likely, he was pretty even match. Today, could you imagine Tiger or Brooks Koepka or one of these guys come up here and play your club champion? I mean, they hit it 100 yards by him, and you know, and they'll just drum him. But I mean, but the average golfer doesn't relate to what's going on today, and it's very, and I think that's a shame, because I thought that was the beauty of the game, is for people who go out and watch the game to understand that, gee, that's what I'd like to be able to do. Well, there's no way in the world they can do what these guys do. But if the ball came back a little bit and things started to where it was relative to the average golfer again, maybe they could see the relevance and do it. And that's where I've been coming from.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to change the game of golf. All I'm trying to do is make it so that people can afford it. People, the game will grow, and it's you know, right now, you know, the guys love to hit the ball a long way, right? So if you go out and you hit one ball, you hit 1 out of 20, and you might hit it 300 yards. The other 19, you hit 200 yards, and all of a sudden, gee, look, I hit that 300 yards. Yeah, so what? You didn't find it. That's generally what happens. And you know, golfers today, you know, they go along and they make a bad hole. They just don't give me a double bogey. You know, years ago when the golf ball didn't go so far, you kept your score and everybody kept a score. And they don't keep scores anymore. I mean, it's just, we're not going to go back 50 years, but we can go back to where the golf courses were, Oakland Hills, where I grew up at Scioto, where we play the Memorial Tournament. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we bring the pros into play. And it's not necessary. It's a very simple thing to fix. And, you know, we got to get that done so that we bring more people into the game and keep them in the game.
One more from Matt. Go ahead.
You mentioned Gary Woodland, and obviously he won yesterday. First major. He's going to play here next week in Detroit.
Is he?
Yeah. How does it change for a player when you go from your guy out there to now you're a major champion? Is it difficult?
His whole life will change. Yeah, it'll change dramatically for him. All of a sudden, they'll walk into the club and they'll say, "Oh, hi, Mr. Woodland." They used to walk in and they say, "What's your number?" 64. 64. Your locker's over there. And the press will walk in. You guys will know he's a major champion now. You walk in, you want to talk to him. And nobody want to talk to him before. He's always been a good golfer, and is a super nice guy. But his life will just change dramatically. The demand on his time, the people that want to see him, people that want to invite him to do things, be part of this, be part of that. It'll change a lot. Yeah. Plus, his bank account probably changed a couple $1 million too.
That's true. Thank you, Jack. That's it for this segment.
We're not going anywhere for a while, I don't think.
No, we're going to ask you to do just a couple little quick stand-ups, and then we'll.
Yeah, well,
call it. Is
if,
that all right?
if you're all done.
Yep.
If you got any more questions, I don't know.
I have one more.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Jack, based on the new rules, that particularly the one that you can pull the pin in or out, does that affect the way you are gonna design your greens or your
No.
complexes?
No, we back in the 50s, we putted with the pin in. And, I think that I don't know why they changed from it, but it's basically designed so that you can speed up play. I mean, most of your players played the cart today. People don't have a caddy, and you don't have to. You get the ball on the green, you're 40 feet away. Go up, hit your putt. You don't have to go up, take the pin out, and do all this kind of. It just speeds up play. And no, it doesn't change the way you design. And years ago, when we had that rule, we had to be very careful because pins were not uniform. Pins today are pretty uniform. They're all certain. I don't know. I guess they're aluminum pins that are a certain width. And before we had some were big fat things, and some were wood, some were the the ball would bounce off of them, so you had to be a little careful. But today I think putting with the pin in is fine. I don't have any problem with that.
Do you think that's the most accepted of all the rule changes? And what other rules might still need time to be embraced?
Well, I think it looks a little stupid dropping him from the knee, but that's not that one I don't think much of. I mean, it could, the rule could say you could drop, somewhere between your knee and your shoulder or something. Then you just drop the ball. You don't have to look like, you look like somebody curtsied out there to drop a golf ball. And that would sort of, although I understand why they do it. The reason for it is so that it does speed up play because the ball won't roll so far away that they won't have more than one drop. But it's a little silly. Let's see, I don't know what the other, I don't even know what they now that it's now no longer water hazards or penalty areas. I don't know what that means. They have, I think the out of bounds rule that they have for the average person, they don't use it on tour. Whether you hit the ball out of bounds, you find it out of bounds, just take an arc. I think that's reasonable. I think that speeds up play a little bit. I think that's probably reasonable. Give me another one. Give me one of the rules.
Well, as a TV viewer, I love the flag stick in the hole, to be honest. I like.
Sure, it's fine. You can see it a lot better. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Some of the silly ones we used to move the ball or hit it twice, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And you just put it back and forget it. If you haven't intentionally tried to move it, then just move it back.
Yeah, and the double hit, they got rid of that.
Double hit, they got rid of that. Yeah, that's a solid thing. I mean, I don't play golf anymore, so I don't know what the rules are anymore. I could pay. I went on television at Muirfield and did a lot of talking. And, I learned about 5 or 6 new rules while I was on television because I didn't have a clue what they were. I haven't completed a round of golf tee to green since 2005. Meaning tapped everything in. Give myself this. I've putted enough of those. Those are good. That was like,
Not a lot of
that was
side
like playing golf with Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton says, "I'll give you yours if you give me mine." Which is what he used to always do. I asked him.
Yeah, his
to
was
kick
for
out
a
of-
7
Huh?
though. Yeah, his was for a 7 though. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they're all 6 and 8 footers, you know. And I see, and I remember I played with him quite a few times actually. He's actually a very nice guy, but he does not like to putt putts because he wants to make it a lower score.
Yeah. Oh, well.
That's what
That's
you
one
do.
way.
That's what you do in politics, I guess. But anyway, I don't know what any of the other ones really. I can't think of it.
Jack was very gracious with his time. He spoke at the 100th anniversary dinner for GAM, their desire to help student athletes play $5 rounds of golf. That is it for this edition of Michigan Golf Scene. We hope you enjoyed this very special edition. To get updates on golfing in the state of Michigan from resorts, professional, amateur tournaments, aerial views, equipment, and stories on what's happening on the game of golf in Michigan, please go to www.midwestsportscene.com and go to the Michigan Golf Scene page. Until next time, this is Roy J. Akers reporting.